Looking for some amazing TV to stream? Indulge yourself with the hits on Hulu you can't miss. Dive in with Barney, Ted, Robin, and the gang on How I Met Your Mother. All 9 seasons are now streaming on Hulu. Then you can move to Modern Family, Schitt's Creek, and My Wife and Kids. We're talking every episode and every season of these shows. We're talking huge hits, streaming on Hulu whenever you're in the mood. Now we're talking.
Your skin refuses to be defined by age. That's why Agency creates personalized anti-aging formulas that smooth fine lines, lighten dark spots, and improve the appearance of dark circles. Each formula is tailored to you and prescribed by a licensed dermatology provider. Formulas are customized with clinically proven ingredients like tretinoin, which is up to 20 times stronger than retinol. Get your first month free at withagency.com. That's WITHAGENCY.com. $4.95 shipping and handling subject to consultation. Subscription required. Cancel anytime.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, the life of a down-on-his-luck comedian is turned upside down by a stalker. The chaos forces him to confront his own past trauma. We'll talk about the Netflix hit series, Baby Reindeer. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca Lavoie.
And finally, our resident Doubting Thomas, author of the City Trilogy, host of Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hello, Toby.
Hello, Rebecca.
All right, so Kevin.
Yeah.
This is Thursday's podcast.
It is.
What is coming up on Monday's show?
On Monday, we're going to be talking about the new release on Netflix. It's called Bodkin.
All right. Well, Kevin.
Yes.
We have a really deep and interesting show to talk about, and I want to get right to it. Once again, be efficient in our recording. Can you believe it?
This is an amazing day.
I know.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to deal with this, but I'm going to try.
You're going to try 2 in a row for Rebecca being efficient and not bringing up some weird side thing at the beginning of the podcast we have to talk about for 5 minutes?
Well, I mean, it's really hard for me not to talk about weird side things, so I'm just going to
Remember last episode we said that wasn't going to happen, and then I talked about wearing the McGruff costume?
Yes.
Oh my God. Transparently, our listeners know we record our episodes in the same day. I am still thinking about all the email we're going to get about you comparing your McGruff costume to what those brave bomb squad first line people wear when they're keeping us safe. It's exactly the same.
Sometimes heroes wear dog outfits, Rebecca.
I mean, he is a crime dog after all.
You got to walk a mile in my fuzzy shoes.
At least you got a fan. When I was Chili the Penguin, when I was part of the Exeter Winterfest, there was no fan in that costume. I thought I was going to pass out.
All
Chili
right.
the Penguin?
I was Chili the Penguin, yeah.
All right. There goes my attempt to just get right to the content. Can we do it now?
Yeah, we're only 2.5 minutes in. Go for it.
All right, let's do it. And let's get into Baby Reindeer. Leading off.
She had this incredible laugh, this giddy, slightly disconcerting laugh. Her name was
Martha.
But all I could think was, if all of this is true, then why can't you afford a cup of tea?
Donnie Dunn, an aspiring stand-up comedian, extends a courtesy to a distraught customer. Martha Scott becomes a friend and a regular at the bar, but her fixation on Donnie starts crossing boundaries. He tries to push away, but a spurned Martha begins an unrelenting stalking campaign which upends his life.
There you are! You cowardly, two-timing fuck! The nerve you showed me the other night, rubbing that skank in my face!
All right, that's enough, Martha!
You've made an enemy of me, Reindeer! Make no mistake about it!
The stress of the stalking triggers repressed feelings of Donnie's own sexual assault at the hands of an influential television writer. As things continue to spin out of control, Donnie struggles to understand himself and decipher the woman who's obsessed with him.
Martha saw me the way I wanted to be seen. So when it came to the point of going to the police, I just couldn't stand the irony. Not him.
Netflix's buzzworthy dark comedy-slash-searing drama Baby Reindeer stars Richard Gadd and is based on his autofictional one-man show. The series mines deep emotional territory with performances that are fiercely raw and often very unsettling. Spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about plot points from Baby Reindeer. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. Now, Kevin, did you expect this show to go anywhere near where it went when we started it?
No, I mean, I thought this would be very much like a Fatal Attraction, focused on Martha, and it's all about the bad things that Martha did. But right away, there's the hint that she recognizes someone hurt him. So in another show, that would be like the sudden dramatic reveal near the end and be used for character development, and then it's done and dusted, right? And this is simply not what happens with that plot point, or basically the way they sort of handle the whole stalking aspect of the story, and there are other interesting things in here. So this is one of the reasons why this just stands apart.
Yeah. Toby, what did you think? Because this is definitely not a straightforward, linear, conventional narrative.
No, it's not. It's sort of idiosyncratic. It's obviously sort of a very personal work. It seems like very, very almost radically honest. There's some interesting stuff that seems like really sort of the moment in a way that I don't know if it works for it or against it, but just in terms of the perspective, in terms of a person who is more or less the victim in this story, telling the story in this way that's sort of very self-aware and also sort of artful. Even if people didn't like it, I think it's hard to say it's not interesting.
Laura, we are introduced to Donnie Dunn, and we learn that Donnie, bartender by day, comedian by night, is this aspiring comedian. And then we see Donnie's comedy again and again and again. And those scenes for me were so unbelievably difficult to watch. Were they difficult to watch for you as well?
They were beyond difficult. It was cringeworthy times cringeworthy times cringeworthy.
So I went vegan recently. Had to make some sacrifices. It's a mink hat. But instead of actual mink, it's a mink stapled to a hat.
You're shite.
There's nothing funny about this guy, and he wants to be a comedian. And then the one where he gets up and he's in the sparkle suit leotard thing. And I'm like, what is happening here? So I was surprised when they were saying his comedy show took off at that point, because I did not see anything funny. But it's I think, again, like Toby was saying, this is a very real, very honest, very raw portrayal. Seeing this guy get up over and over again, and then seeing how, in a way, his vulnerability in how much he wants to be a comedian, right? Because you're dude, you might want to stick to bartending.
Kevin, there is a theme here that I just want to ask you about, as somebody who's sort of been in front of camera and sort of in the industry for such a long time, that Donnie is really driven by, and he sort of talks about this again and again and again, this desire to be someone, this desire to be famous, this desire to be something, at the same time that he is riddled with this deep self-loathing that sort of precedes the trauma that we know he went through. And I find that so unbelievably real to watch. What do you think of just sort of that confessional thing that we get? Because that's Richard Gadd talking, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, like male victimhood is rarely tackled on screen. Now, I'm not saying that female victimhood gets really great quality attention, but certainly male victimhood, not in this very raw way, and sort of the self-loathing that the character that the victim has afterwards was just really raw. So multi-dimensional, the writing and the performance at this. It was just grueling to watch, especially that shower scene, the physical pain of it, along with the emotional grooming that immediately succeeded it, and then self-destructive acting out that followed. It was all very surprising because it was unexpected to the average viewer, and that's what made it feel so real. Right. And yeah, I mean, a lot of performers are looking to be accepted or find something about themselves, to the affirmation that one would get from an audience, coming up with the props and stuff like that, and not being well received. I'm sure that for Donnie, and perhaps how much of this is Richard, like that didn't go over well. He's got a great line where he describes his act as saying, comedian when they laugh, performance artist when they don't. Very Steve Martin-esque, right?
Yeah. This is definitely a complicated story. This is not just about a guy getting stalked. This is not just about a guy trying to make it in comedy. There's just a lot of moving parts. So can you talk about that a little bit, Toby? That sort of weird motivation and how that sort of both culminates in his being abused, but also is tied to his being abused? Because I think that the character Donnie, who I really see as, an extension of Richard Gadd, I mean, he's written about it, he's talked about it. He talks about them being inextricably tied together, but not necessarily one causing the other one. His desire and his insecurity and his deep needs, not necessarily being a result of the trauma, but the two of them being so linked that he has a hard time being able to separate them. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think he deals with a complex situation in a way that lets you see the complexity, right? And don't want to reduce it to a 1 or 2 minute talking point, but he's got a lot of confusions, I think, around ambition for himself in comedy, with also the understanding that he sucks at it, right? I mean, he gets that every time he gets on stage. He's got a whole bunch of people saying, you suck, you are not good at this. And then he also seems to have this weird blind spot for normal human relationships, in that he lets the sort of destructive and abnormal relationships overwhelm the normal relationships he has in his life. And I think it's, maybe it's tied back to this idea that he has this goal, which seems unattainable based on who he is and what his talents are, that leaves him vulnerable first to that producer or star maker or whatever that guy is, who's I really see something in you, which he could not possibly have because there's nothing to see, but predators do, and like Martha does as whatever she is. I mean, she's kind of a predator, I guess, is that they're able to see your vulnerabilities and exploit them. And I think he's just wearing that on his sleeve. So that makes him vulnerable. So yeah, that leads to his abuse, which leads to further complications. And again, in this sort of what are the normal relationships in my life that I should be fostering versus the ones that are destructive to me? Why am I turning my back on my normal supportive girlfriend so I can hang out with this drug fiend who may or may not be hooking me up? Why do I have this lovely partner and I'm screwing that totally up because I'm kind of obsessed with this deranged stalker who's coming after me? I just got such a feeling of the confusion in his mind about where he stood with different people and where he stood with the world and where he kind of stood with his own sort of desires for himself. I just thought that was really, really compelling in the way they did it, and that he doesn't really spell it out for you. He just kind of shows it for you in the way he does things. I think it comes out again later with his parents when he goes up to see his parents, because everything's about to be revealed to his parents. And their reaction is exactly the opposite of what he's expecting.
I guess I never wanted you to know because I didn't want you to think less of me. As a man.
Oh, Donnie, of course we don't. You're our son, whatever happens.
I just feel less of one, having let something like that happen to me.
But you didn't let it happen. You weren't to blame.
Would you see me as less of one?
It just shows how he doesn't quite understand that relationship. He doesn't get the nuance of it. And I just thought that was, with him writing, just being in charge of this whole thing, to be able to show that kind of misread. I thought it was really interesting.
I think the parent scenes were some of the most interesting scenes of the whole thing, because the whole show is so chaotic and the inner monologue is so constant. The Martha scenes are so chaotic. He's always telling you how he's self-destructive. And you expect, I think the viewer expects to meet the parents and have there be something there, and there just isn't. The parents are so lovely and the parents accept him. And then the scene where he reveals to his parents that he was abused, and, his father says, would you think that of me? When he says, I was afraid you'd think I was less of a man, is so moving and so normal in the best possible way. It's what we all want, the kind of parents we all want. And then when they're standing on the train platform being super dorks, extending their goodbye to him, and the father says, what? go get your beautiful trans girlfriend back or whatever he says to him. It's just so beautiful and lovely, but it like makes you so dread that you know he's going back into the pool, because he does go back into the chaos pool. Speaking of the chaos pool, Laura, we need to talk about Martha. We haven't even talked about her yet.
Oh, yeah.
Because he meets Martha and he knows immediately that she's a problem and he lets her in. What do you make of, obviously Martha does not, she pretends to be a lawyer. He knows she's not good at keeping up the performance. She can't even spell sent from my iPhone correctly from her iPhone.
That's crazy.
Well, it's weird because she spells some things correctly and some things not correctly.
Right.
And it's like weird. How does she? Yeah.
Yeah. So
she writes sent from my iPhone.
Like sent from my iPhone. So when we first met Martha and we're sort of being pulled down the Martha rabbit hole, what were you thinking?
I was thinking, it's like Kevin said earlier, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a setup like a Fatal Attraction type show and something crazy is going to happen with Martha. But yeah, it's pretty clear right away. She's like, oh, look, here's my contacts in my phone, David Cameron and this person and that person and all these things, but I can't pay for my cup of tea or whatever it was. I'm immediately struck by this is being set up like, this is a stalker situation. But you can see right from the beginning that Donnie has sort of a level of empathy for her that is preventing him from setting any boundaries as this goes on. So they have this strange sort of codependent stalky relationship. But I think the thing about Martha is like she seems like she's, the number of emails she's sending every day, she's there every day. She's just obsessed with him. But in the beginning, you're like, she doesn't really seem dangerous. She just seems like she's got some serious mental challenges, right? Like she's got some mental illness. And it's pretty clear that Donnie recognizes that and says something to the effect of her being unwell, but it was just every time you turn around, there she is again. And obviously she gets more forceful when he starts dating Terry. That scene where Martha comes in and like rips the top of Terry's hair off, that was where I was like, oh, okay.
So Donnie, why don't you just tell her that you're on a date with me and she needs to fuck off?
Whore! Fucking whore! You nasty little whore! You fucking ugly!
I think what was interesting is they really brought this sort of nuance into the relationship and sort of like how they fed off of each other. Like where you see he's trying to get rid of her, but then she comes to his comedy show. Now she's sort of in. And then they're like outside having this bonding moment after the comedy show. And you're like, what are you doing? So I think my takeaway from this is boundaries.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to set boundaries, you need to learn to set boundaries or you're going to end up like Donnie.
Or you don't want them in his case because he so craves being adored. Right, Kevin? That's kind of where it comes from. What are your thoughts about Martha?
Yeah, well, I think the actress Jessica Gunning, she performs Martha, very well. She is the antagonist and, in a way that's not over the top, not cartoonish. It gets ramped up when it needs to, but they also don't make like cheap jokes about her appearance. And like when she's finally sentenced at the end, you also can see that like she's in pain and that she never received the help that she needs. And that's one of the reasons why she was sending hundreds of emails a day. We'll only send you one email a week if you sign up for our newsletter.
Oh, Kevin.
It's what?
Is this the transition to our business section?
That wasn't bad. I thought that was pretty
good.
Smooth.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, well,
you're not going to be a Martha.
No, I will not be a Martha. Not even, or even like in the Handmaid's Tale kind of Martha.
Yeah,
I won't be that Martha
you won't
either.
send it from your iPhone.
My iPhone.
Your iPhone?
No, I will not do that. I'll do that on Thursdays. We can send you our free Crime Writers On newsletter. You'll get stuff like Crime Writers On behind the scenes. You'll get recaps of our reviews. We get the Crime of the Week and the Pet of the Week. Want to see the Pet of the Week? We could put it right there. You also can get great stuff at our Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/partners in crime media, support us at the leading off level. You get exclusive content like the Crime Writers On After Show and Married with Podcast. If you joined us at the Bricker scale, you get an exclusive podcast on top of that. It's Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast. If you join us at the Let's Do What We Do level, you get episodes of Crime Writers On early and ad-free. You already know what our review of Baby Reindeer would be. And if you become a deep diver, you can not only get Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, but you can watch him record it and even take part in the chat if you want.
Wow.
Now, we also have an Amazon storefront where you can see some of our favorite things. Rebecca what are this week's Amazon recommendations?
Okay, Kevin. You know how when you go to like a restaurant and they have drinks in those awesome tiki cups that are shaped like birds and like, you know, yeah, I have those. And you can get them on Amazon. I have a set of 4. Why are you shaking your head, Toby? Tiki cups are amazing, and they're amazing to serve amazing drinks in. And mine are shaped like a set of 4 birds, and the birds are beautiful and adorable.
Do you also have the volcano thing in the middle? No, okay.
Just the bird cups. And I have them in ceramic, and they're so cute.
All right.
Don't shake your head at me, Toby.
I'm just thinking about how much greater my recommendations are about to be.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Toby, what are your listener-inspired deep cut recommendations?
This is going out to Rebecca. Foldable windshield sunshade fit for Kia K5 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, in parentheses, not for 2016 to 2020 Kia Optima.
So specific.
End parentheses, front window sunshade, sun visor cover blocks UV rays.
Wow. So specific.
Good.
That's pretty sweet. And then the other one is cucumber.
Oh. Okay.
Just a cucumber?
Just a cucumber. No additional information.
Buy a cucumber. Wow. Someone's really using our link for their shopping. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, you can use it for all sorts of things that you get on Amazon. Just shop us first at amazon.com/shop/Crime Writers On, and then do all your shopping there to see our recommendations and then get whatever you like. We earn commissions on qualified purchases.
I don't know if we earn commissions on a cucumber, but I'm glad you bought it there.
Whoever you are.
I'm going to look that up now. I'm going to see what shows up when I look that up.
This is what a cucumber is? It's like this. It's like a vegetable.
Yeah.
It's green. Looks like a squash a little bit.
Yeah.
Cucumber. It just says
all right.
cucumber.
They become pickles.
All right. So, Kevin.
Oh my God. You can actually order a freaking cucumber on Amazon.
Yeah, of course.
No, like.
Keep up, Laura.
No, like I didn't think it was a real cucumber. Organic cucumber, $2.19. Whole Foods. Delivered today between 5 and 7.
All right, Kevin.
Get that cucumber immediately.
Kevin Flynn.
I need a fucking cucumber.
Now.
And I want it right now.
Send it over in the drone. All right, Kevin. Before we end this business section, do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Vanessa Paul and Ellen Cooper. Bless you.
Bless you, Vanessa. Bless you, Ellen. Bless you, whoever ordered that fucking cucumber. It's incredible. I challenge
It's like
you.
something Donnie Dunn would pull out of his suitcase.
I challenge you, listeners, use our Amazon link, buy some shit. Maybe Toby will read it on the air. It's all very exciting to have this feature back on our podcast again. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. Thank you for supporting us by listening to the podcast. And most of all, thank you for supporting us by muscling through the business section. Kevin, can I go ahead and fade that music out right now?
Do it.
So, Kevin, who is our next sponsor on this program?
We're sponsored by Quince.
Oh, Quince, yay! I just ordered something from Quince.
Yeah, okay, so the weather's getting warmer, and we're putting away, like, all those winter sweaters and the big jackets, and you know what you find out?
You need stuff.
You don't have anything really great for the warmer weather, so this is a great time to look into the great deals they have at Quince. They have premium European linen dresses, blouses, shorts from $30, washable silk tops, 14-karat gold jewelry, so much more. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
Yep, I just ordered something from Quince. Literally, just did.
What did you get?
I have this cardigan that I have there in like this light blue color. It's this cotton and linen like boyfriend fit cardigan that I got last summer that I love so much. I just ordered a second one in camel because I wear it all the time. I love it so much, and I ordered a new one. I love it.
Okay, so I guess that's a personal endorsement?
It is. I love Quince. I love it so much.
Get warm, weather ready with Quince. Go to quince.com/crime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/crime to get free shipping and 365-day returns. QUINCE.com/crime.
All right, so Kevin, who is our next sponsor on the show?
We're sponsored by Shopify.
Ooh.
Okay, so you got to name some sleuthing partners who got it done. Watson and Holmes, the Hardy Boys, Cagney and Lacey.
Oh.
Rizzoli and Isles.
Wait a minute, how old was the person that wrote this copy? They put down Cagney and Lacey.
They put down
I
the
love
Hardy
Cagney and
Boys.
Lacey.
What?
I use Cagney and Lacey all the time when I refer to my colleague and my PI colleague. I'm like, we're like Cagney and Lacey.
Oh, man.
My God, this is like, you had no electricity in the 80s, but you knew Cagney and Lacey on CBS.
Yes. I don't know how it happened.
Toby doesn't even know who Cagney and Lacey are. I guarantee
And
it.
I do.
Isn't it like Tyne Daly?
Oh, wow, snap!
Wow.
It's like Scott and Bailey. It's like Scott and Bailey are like the British version of Cagney and Lacey.
Okay, Rizzoli and I was going to go Mulder and Scully myself.
Huh. Wow.
Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, okay. There you go. Chico and the Man.
Huh.
They weren't detectives, right?
Not usually.
Do heart-to-heart count?
Yeah, because when they met, it was murder. But what about perfect partners when it comes to growing your business? That's you and Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business, from the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to your, did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Shopify is there for you. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star.
Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/crimewriters.
Crime Writers,
all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/crimewriters.
Crime Writers.
All lowercase now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/crimewriters.
For 25 years, nothing has tasted better after a hard day's work than a Mike's Hard Lemonade. It's because since day one, Mike's has been making lemonade the hard way. We use 3 kinds of lemons, all hand-picked from family farms, then blended to perfection and cold pressed to create the epic hard lemonade you know and love. Mike's Hard Lemonade. Hard days deserve a hard lemonade. Mike's is hard, so is prison. Don't drive drunk. Premium malt beverage with flavors. All registered trademarks used under license by Mike's Hard Lemonade Company, Chicago, Illinois.
So, Toby, there are some very contemporary themes here. I mean, we're talking about there's a trans storyline, there's a prevalent Me Too storyline. This does feel like a show that was tailor-made in many ways for 2024. What do you think about that? I mean, it's timely, but it also is kind of coincidental because this has been in development for quite a long time, from my understanding.
Oh, so I don't know anything about the history of it. Yeah, I mean, it kind of cuts both ways, right? In some ways, it's like a document of the moment and sort of stuff that we're concerned with in a way that I think is kind of genuine to his life. But I think it also, sometimes this kind of specificity can kind of make it feel a little less general. Is it going to hit the same way in 5 years, essentially? Is it the kind of thing that stands the test of time? I mean, this is unique enough that I do think that it's potentially something that people would want to watch years down the line. But does this kind of stuff really date it or not? I mean, it's, again, I think it makes it more compelling now. I wonder, if in the future, it's like, oh, well, how weird that we were worried about that stuff at that point, and now we've kind of gotten past it. I watched it without knowing very much about the backstory, and then I went and did a little bit of research because they're like, oh, it's his thing. And so some of the stuff that at first I was like, this is hitting a little bit too much on the head, turns out was actually real. So that kind of changed my kind of take on it too. It's like, well, sometimes the head is there because it's stuff that actually happens. And in this case, it did. So, again, this is kind of like quibbling about things and about how it'll be received years in the future. But it was something that kind of I was thinking about as we went through.
Yeah, I mean, my only thoughts about the sort of aging of it are that, I mean, the hopeful part of me is hoping that Terry's trans storyline doesn't age well, because in the future, it won't be like a thing that we talk about as being, new, or the thing that we talk about in terms of Terry being a trans character and Terry being trans is even like something that is just discussed. It's like Terry being a trans woman is just Terry being a woman. I mean, that's my hope.
What I enjoyed about the character is that, like everything else in Baby Reindeer, there's complexity to it that they just go right after. But what was interesting to me is the complexity with that relationship doesn't really have much to do with Terry. It has to do with Donnie. Like at first, when the scene on the train where he's reluctant to kiss her in public, you're like, is this going to be a transphobia aspect to this story? But we just kind of see later how that all just sort of plays into all these other traumas and the other thing that he's trying to work out for himself. I thought that was a really great storyline myself.
It was really interesting, certainly, to watch it play out. And the actress playing Terry is spectacular. Her name's Nava Mao. I'm not sure to pronounce her first name, but she's absolutely spectacular in this role, absolutely transcendent and like amazing to watch on screen. An incredible screen presence.
I'm sure this is a right laugh. Is that it? Doing all of this for a bit of material?
What? No, Terry, I'd never do that.
I don't believe you. I don't believe anything you say. And guess what? Time's up, dickhead. Get the fuck out my house.
Laura, I mean, Toby alluded to this earlier, but this is based on Richard Gadd's, one-man play, which is based on his real-life experiences. And this has caused some real-life stuff, the success of this show, which we've seen play out in the media a little bit. I believe that I saw earlier today a news item where the, quote, real-life Martha was going to be appearing on Piers Morgan.
Oh.
After people were sort of trying to figure out who the real-life Martha was. That hadn't happened yet by the time of this taping. I just saw a promo for it. But what do you think of this idea that now the public has been trying to hunt these people down and that, Richard Gadd had to come out in defense of a good friend of his who was just like, guys, this is not Darian. Like, this is because it was somebody that he had collaborated with for a long time on a television show. And it's like, no, this is not him. But yeah, this has had some real world consequences for some people.
Yeah. As I was watching this, I kept having to think, wait a minute. The guy that's playing Donnie is the real person that this is based on. And now they're portraying Donnie, who actually it's the same person. Yeah. I'm like, I had to kind of wrap my head around that. I'm like, that was a very unique kind of segue into the show. But then, like, as we're watching this, every day I'm getting like all these like dinging updates on Twitter or like more baby reindeer updates about these real life people. And I guess my question is, he says...
Was Martha sending you text messages? Is that all those?
From her iPhone. Yes, Martha's sending things from her iPhone to me every day. But I was like, I know he says that he disguised who these people were, but I feel like this is really like one of those sort of hot potato sort of things where if you're going to dramatize your own life based on something that actually happened to you that's this fucked up, I guess you're taking that chance that people are then going to go out and try to connect the dots and figure out who these people are because this is something that actually happened. We see that in the beginning. This is a true story. Then right off the bat, we see that in the first episode. This is based on a true story. So I guess part of me wonders, like, what is the responsibility that he had as the writer and portraying himself in this to not out those people? Or does he have any ethical reason not to out those people? Because I feel like in this sort of culture that we have today of like citizen sleuths and everybody wanting to know everything, and it seems like you might make the leap that people are going to try to figure out who these people are and where they are and get the interviews. Just like when the Golden Bachelor turned out to be a fraud and they went out to his town and found out the truth about him.
Yep.
Not that there's any direct correlation there, but I'm just saying people want to know the real people behind these stories. So
again, we haven't gone off the rails.
No, it's a different world. You know what I was thinking about? It's a different world. I was thinking about the Howard Stern movie, Private Parts, where he makes no fucking bones about it. He plays himself in that movie. It's about his love story with his wife. He has a guy playing Don Imus in that movie who is such a fucking asshole. He calls him Don Imus. He says he's an asshole. He talks about his first boss in that movie. He calls him Pig Vomit. It's
changed his name.
Played by Paul Giamatti. Everybody, it was not hard to figure out who it was. And then he talked about it later on the air. But it was not the age of social media. It was not like the age where someone could just like, go on LinkedIn and figure out who Howard Stern used to work for, right?
Right, but this is also a story not about like somebody's career rise.
No.
This is how he's telling his story, his truth, right?
He's talking about being raped.
In an autofictional way, right? Based on real life. But you can try to mask the identity, but otherwise you're like running the risk of not telling your story if you get hung up on that too much. So
it's hard because I get that, Kevin, but I also, part of me still feels like, obviously Martha was way out of bounds, but Martha's clearly somebody that's got major mental health issues.
Sure.
And so I feel like part of me feels some empathy for that this person who's clearly mentally ill is now being targeted, but is still, based on the news articles I've read, carrying on I'm a very successful lawyer, I'm this, I'm that, all the like same sort of delusions that she was portrayed as saying in the show. So that's where I guess I feel like a little bit like I don't feel sympathy for the guy that like drugged him and like assaulted him. I feel no sympathy for that guy. But for Martha, I feel like this is a vulnerable person, even though what she did is super fucked up. She shouldn't have done it. This is a really not a good situation. But this is a vulnerable person that now is a target in a way.
Just going back a second, Laura, if his parents are anything like his parents in the series, though, like they're pretty great, right?
Right.
I mean, the scene with the
Don't
father.
get the father on the telephone.
Yeah.
He'll give it right back to you.
Those scenes were like the funniest thing in the entire show. Was
when his
the
father
dad
was yelling at
screaming
Martha.
obscenities at her, yeah.
Aye, and I've told you bet you call me again, I'll come to London and cut your legs off. Yeah, you had your legs. Oh, you will you? Well, that's going to be pretty fucking hard to do with no legs, let me tell you.
How did she get his mobile?
The receptionist at work gave it to her.
So, Toby, what do you think about the climax of the series? Donnie is in this comedy competition, and he decides to use his time, or mid-act, decides to use his time to deliver a soliloquy about what's been going on in his life.
Yeah, it's intense. I guess it really happened, or some version of it really happened, because that was another thing. I was like, I hope this is real, because otherwise it seems a little contrived.
I see what it was that I lost in her, and moreover, I see why I messed it up in the way that I did. And it's because of this, right? It's because I loved one thing in this world more than I did her, right? One thing. And do you know what that one thing was? Hating myself.
They figured out a way to have him do sort of the mental dump in a way that seems authentic and makes sense, and is able to get across some stuff that, even though I think the show was really, really, really good about showing and not telling about stuff, I think there was a point at which the telling to kind of like dot the I's and cross the T's may have been necessary. Like, I felt like getting to the end and being like reducing it to I hate myself more than I love her, as to the end of his relationship with Terry, that seemed to simplify something that had been created that was more complicated, I thought. When he said that, like, I remember watching, I was like, oh, like in this whole show, like that was the disappointing moment for me, in that I had sort of ensconced myself in this very, I think, sort of complicated, very driven by these different needs, sort of interiority to Donnie. But when he's being at his most vulnerable, he reduces it to this kind of like, there's the amount I hate myself and the amount I love her, and one's bigger than the other. And that's what happened. So that to me kind of sucks some of the power out of it. But just the rest of it, it's like the rest of the show. It's intense. And I guess also him like dressed up in that ridiculous suit that he has when he's going out to do these horrible comedy things, and like sort of wearing the same thing as he's sort of confessing his deepest feelings.
It's like Marcel Marceau, sad clown, right?
Yeah, to this basically the same reaction from the audience that he gets from his jokes, which is just like staring kind of stunned at him. That seems like the climax, and there's like a final episode afterwards, which you almost like, it'd be hard to end it on that, right? Because it's just, you kind of feel like you need some closure after that thing. Because it's not really closure. It's sort of,
you need a denouement.
Sort of the ultimate moment of understanding what the issue is.
And I think the part at the end that kind of stuck with me is when he was like listening to all of her voicemails, basically like a podcast. And like you get the totality of like the volume of all these voicemails that he has not listened to. And then that, again, you're seeing that like codependency between stalker and stalkee that culminates at the end where he finally hears why she called him baby reindeer. And then again, he's feeling that sympathy for her again, because, she reveals that when she was a young girl, she had a little stuffed reindeer. It was the only good thing in her life that she had when her parents were fighting, and that he reminded her of this reindeer. And I think like he's turned her in and he's done the right thing. But at the same time, he recognizes again that she's not well and that she's just a very sad, lonely person.
I just want to say one thing about something Toby said earlier, just before I ask the last question. Toby said something about the show does so much showing and not telling. I just find that interesting, considering that it's just inner dialogue the whole time. The whole thing is a soliloquy, really, the whole show. And it's like, it is a magic trick, I think, to come away with it thinking that there's so much showing and no telling when he's literally talking at us the entire time. Really? It really is. It's really incredible.
But he's describing things rather than telling you what you're supposed to think about them, right?
Right. That's exactly right. And that is that's just not something that we get. So, Kevin, I'm going to give you the privilege of answering the question that is the thing that people are most talking about this. What do you think the ending means?
Oh, it's open to so many interpretations.
I'm going to give you the interpretation.
Okay. So this is what we're talking about, where he receives a free drink at the bar and how that sort of mirrors the opening with how he met Martha. You know, it doesn't mean that Donnie's going to stalk the bartender now. Like, I don't think that. But I think it can show like how anyone could find themselves in that place where they are needing the kindness of strangers or of somebody. And in that moment, I mean, I think as audience members, until, you know, we're getting like, oh man, this guy gets him. Maybe he'll be a friend or something like that. And I think we see that too. How grateful was he in that moment to get that drink? So, I mean, but also like this is the moment that he's been searching for. He's been trying to figure out about Martha. He's been trying to like get to the bottom of who the hell she really is and what she's all about. And he finds himself in that exact same moment. And I think that's as close as he's going to come to figuring her out. So that's like how I interpret the ending.
Whether you're shopping for grads, getting an early gift for dad, or just looking for a little something new or used for your shelf, you'll find it at HPB. And you'll get almost everything for an extra 20% off during the big sale at Half Price Books this Memorial Day weekend. Saturday, May 25th through Monday, May 27th. Save big in-store at your local Half Price Books and at hpb.com. Offer cannot be combined with other coupons. Exclusions apply. To learn more, visit hpb.com.
At Mayo Clinic in Florida, we are predicting the unpredictable. Our experts are using a patient's own anatomy to create 3D printed, life-size organ models to map out challenges ahead of time, making complex surgeries more precise, efficient, and less invasive. We are making more possible at Mayo Clinic because every day we're doing what's never been done. Learn more at mayoclinic.org/possible. Mayo Clinic. You know where to go.
Hi, it's Martha Stewart. You know, I spend a lot of time thinking about dirt. At 3 a.m., at all hours of the day, really. What people don't know is that not all dirt is the same. You need dirt with the right kind of nutrients. New Miracle Grow organic raised bed and garden soil is so dense, so full of nutrient-rich, high-quality ingredients. Miracle Grow is simply the best.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out Baby Reindeer? It's a series on Netflix. Everyone's talking about it. Now, so have we. Laura Bricker, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Baby Reindeer?
I'm going to go thumbs up for Baby Reindeer, even though I felt so uncomfortable watching so much of this because it was a hard watch. It was not what I thought it was going to be going in. There were some very bleak, very disturbing, to put it mildly, parts to this. But I think in terms of seeing trauma and cycles of abuse play out, especially male sexual abuse, which is something that we really don't see a lot of covered in a very authentic way, this was really pretty good in that area, even though it was really, really hard to watch. I wouldn't say I watched this for Donnie Dunn's comedy routine, but I think this was unlike anything that we have ever watched in terms of dynamics between stalkers, examination of relationships, examination of boundaries, examinations of generational abuse, and just a really unique story. So I saw everybody before I watched this. I kept seeing people on my social media saying like, Baby Reindeer, have to discuss, don't know what to make of it. I totally understand where they're coming from now because I still don't really know what to make of it. But it was very well done.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for Baby Reindeer?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a sucker for these like ambitious, personal, idiosyncratic type things. It's not perfect, but what it attempts to do, I think, is so much different than what most things attempt to do. I also think it is, how many things have we covered around true crime? And so much of it, like even like the excellent stuff, is sort of in the same kind of mold, and you're sort of addressing the same types of issues. And this just seems like it comes from a completely different angle, and it's not even like sort of other victim-centered stuff we've done. I mean, it's complicated. I would like pay attention to the trigger warnings at the beginning because there's a lot of shit in this that's rough. It just feels like it's like in a different kind of category than a lot of stuff that we watch, just in terms of, ambition, sort of artistic quality, and just sort of this kind of attempt to understand yourself, especially in the face of trauma and sort of shitty decisions that you end up making. It's not perfect, but I give it a strong thumbs up if it's the kind of thing you want to watch. But it is, again, it's bleak. It's got a lot of triggering stuff.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm going for thumbs up. It's a difficult watch at times. I will say I did have a couple of laugh out loud moments, but I can't say that I remembered what I was laughing at. I just remember that, I'm laughing at that funny thing because there are so many other challenging things around it. I guess you kind of do need that little, as they call it, comic relief in order to build up the tension and the drama again. Even though the setup is about a stalker, you think it's going to be a paint-by-numbers story about somebody being pursued by an obsessive other person. It goes so much beyond that. It's a lot about people's interiority and about the stories that they don't have. And it's just a story about toxic empathy. And it's unlike anything that I've ever seen. And I think that if you brace yourself for it, you're going to be rewarded with a very thought-provoking series. I'm a thumbs up.
I'm a thumbs up too. I kept thinking the entire time I was watching this, how the fuck did this get greenlit? This is wild. What was the pitch meeting like for this,
Come
right?
see my show. Yeah.
That must have been it. It must have just been, but still, it's like so complicated and weird and layered. And what I love about this series is the honest examination of deep insecurity and where the roots of that insecurity come from. We've talked a lot about the trauma. We've talked a lot about the other parts of it, but sort of the dark admission of self-loathing is something I think so many people can relate to on perhaps a different scale than happens in this series. But it's something that I think is kind of refreshing to watch because at some point in our lives, many of us, if not all of us, have gone through a period of like intense self-loathing, intense self-doubt, intense, fraud syndrome or whatever. So there's a lot here to think about and a lot here to look at and a lot here to examine and a lot here. Kevin, I agree with you. Some parts of it were extremely funny. It's just a very, very sharply written show. And I really enjoyed watching pretty much every second of it, even the parts that were hard to watch. Just really, really well done. So yeah, thumbs up for me for Baby Reindeer. All right, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, I have to ask, do we have a cat of the week this week?
We do, in honor of our Amazon list, and also as a nod to the other podcast we reviewed this week. Utah cat found safe in California after sneaking into Amazon return box.
What?
Yes, the cat, Galena, survived being shipped from Utah to California after sneaking into an Amazon return box. Galena, 6 years old, an indoor-only cat, went 500 miles in the 3-foot by 3-foot shipping container. 6 days of travel with no food or water, discovered in good shape by an Amazon employee in the Amazon warehouse. But meanwhile, the cat's owner, Harry Clark, has no idea what happened to their cat, that it climbed into an Amazon return box, is posting missing cat flyers around the neighborhood, searching for the cat. And then they get a notification that the cat's microchip has been discovered in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. They thought it was a mistake, but actually the cat had been mailed cross country.
Do they get it like in their Amazon shipping notifications? Your cat has been delivered to our shipping facility in Los Angeles.
It was Brandy Hunter, an Amazon worker at a California warehouse, said coworkers informed they had found a cat in the return package. Hunter, who is a self-described crazy cat lady, after my own heart, took the cat in for the night and then to the local veterinarian who scanned the cat, found the microchip, and then the owners hopped on a plane from Utah to California to get their cat back.
Wow.
There's a lot happening here. We're looking at Toby Ball's cat, who's getting bigger and bigger now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty amazing cat story with a lot of connections to everything that we do on this podcast. So Galena, I'm glad you're back in Utah. And I hope none of my cats try to hop in an Amazon return package.
So many twists and turns. All right, Laura Bricker, if folks want to pitch you any stories of their own or stories from the news or any kind of story to be Cat of the Week, we'll accept all animals. I, of course, prefer the living ones, but, Laura's a little bit more open-minded than I am. How can they find you online?
At Laura Bricker on Twitter and Instagram.
You can also email us at crimewriterson@gmail.com. Toby Ball, how can you be found online?
At Toby Ball and H.
What about you, Kevin?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn, and the P stands for iPhone. Except for when it's spelled with an F, and that's Flynn, which stands for sent from my iPhone.
And if you want to follow me everywhere online, find me on Instagram or Twitter at Reb Lavoie. I really encourage you to join our Crime Writers On Facebook discussion group. It's where all the action happens. There are people just like you who like watching media, talking about it, who enjoy talking about this program and other things that they're watching and stuff going on in their lives. People there are really awesome. Just go to Facebook, find our page, and there's a link there to join the group. Get episodes early and ad-free at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. You'll also get the Crime Writers On After Show, Married with Podcast, Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcasts. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons. Our line editor is the terrific Livy Burdett. The executive producer of this program is Kevin P. Flynn. This show was recorded in the Treehouse Yoga Studio above the Mockingbird Cafe in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, otherwise known as Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement, where we also have a very large suitcase filled with props suitable for stand-up comedy. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
That's going to be awesome when I saw a cucumber.
Partners in Crime Media.
On this episode of Plant Killers, we'll explore one nation's most notorious fruit and vegetable killer, bad dirt. What makes bad dirt so bad? The answer? The ingredients. But fear not, true crime enthusiasts. This story has a happy ending. New Miracle Grow organic raised bed and garden soil. It's made with quality organic ingredients from upcycled green waste like compost and aged bark. Unlike the other guys who can't say the same. Looks like bad dirt's murdering days are over, thanks to Miracle Grow. Join us next time on Plant Killers.